Little Murders is a black comedy released in 1971, directed by Alan Arkin.
Yeah, it's set in New York in the early 70s, a hot summer, back when New York was a bit of a cesspool of crime and, misery. And it focuses mainly on a young couple, Alfred and Patsy. And they first meet because she wakes up and she can hear, like a ruckus outside her window downstairs in the street. She tries to call the police. They don't answer, or they hang up or something, don't they? And she goes down to find what's going on, and Alfred is being beaten up by just this gang, and she manages to get them off him, and he just wanders off while they start to try and beat her up. And when she gets away, she's like, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Why, you could say thanks for saving me or something." But you quickly realise that he's completely apathetic about pretty much everything. And then she basically, for some reason, they start going out, and then she basically makes it her mission to change him into a not quite as apathetic,
yes.
And make him more happy-go-lucky like she is. And he meets her family, who are quite irritating, and we meet lots of other odd characters, and it's basically a comment on how New Yorkers felt about the way the city was going, back in that time. It's not like that anymore, thank God. But yeah, during the 70s and 80s, it was a bit crime-ridden, shall we say?
I mean, the whole film is kind of there's lots of. I mean, the title is Little Murders, so it is lots of violence going on, and obscene phone calls and blackouts, and all kinds of crazy things like that. And it's almost like it's become so common that people just seem to accept it.
Yeah, they don't really react to a lot of it,
Not
do
at
they?
all, no. And Alfred himself, he says he gets beaten up a lot, and he just kind of lets them get on with it because he thinks they'll just get tired in the end. So, yes, it is a satire on that whole, on violence in America. And I think actually it's still quite relevant today, obviously. And I think the writer, so it was written by Jules Feiffer, who was a cartoonist originally in the 60s, I think, and then he started writing plays, and they first performed this on Broadway. It was a big failure, and then they took it over to London and they played it at the Aldwych Theatre, where it was a success, and then took it back to America and they did it off Broadway, where it was a success also. So obviously the mainstream theatre goers didn't like it, but the liberals off Broadway and in London loved it. So then Alan Arkin came on board to direct. I think he directed the off-Broadway play and then he did the film. So obviously he's a cartoonist, so he's into satire, and he was quite... I've never heard of Jules Feiffer myself, but I think if you were American in the 60s, you probably would have heard of him. And he said that he wrote it on the back of after JFK. So JFK was assassinated, then Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated, then Martin Luther King was assassinated. A lot of assassinations took place. And then after that, I think there was a huge wave of kind of crime and murder and things like that came about. So that's why he wrote this. And it is absurd. It's completely... I mean, it's much in the style of other films, I think, that came out of that same period, like M.A.S.H., and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which was a 60s film about racism, which is very funny. The Odd Couple by Neil Simon, all that kind of... If you like that kind of comedy, you'll probably like this film. It's very witty dialogue, but delivered really well.
Yeah.
So it's all that kind of...
It's almost performed like a play.
It is performed like a play, yeah definitely.
People seem to talk a lot louder than they would under normal circumstances, and then there's lots of long monologues as well.
Yes, no, definitely, yes. I think there's a wonderful scene, when he meets her parents, and they are kind of a dysfunctional family, almost they love their kids too much, but then they start, nitpicking little things. That whole sequence, I think, is very funny, especially when the lights start to go off because there's blackouts and things happen. I mean, it's absurd and it's crazy and lots of strange things happen. There are quite a few sight gags as well. There was also, and I would suggest it's worth seeing this film for this one bit alone, and that's the performance by Donald Sutherland. So Donald Sutherland plays the priest that eventually marries them, and he himself is like, he's a bit of a hippie priest, so it's that kind of 70s peace-loving thing. I mean, the church itself, I think they're called the first existential church, which also, because a lot of 70s films covered that whole existentialism ground. And he does the whole service without giving it away, he kind of flips the whole marriage thing on its head, and that's very funny. And also Alan Arkin himself. So it was directed by Alan Arkin, who most of you will know as an actor. He was in Catch-22 around the same time, and mostly comedy actors. He was in Grosse Pointe Blank, which we did a few weeks ago. He was a very memorable. He's the psychiatrist. In that film.
Yeah, not in a great deal, but he's got some.
No, he's very funny in that. I don't know if he directed anything else actually after this one, but around that time he was mainly known as a comedy actor. It's clearly of its time, but like I said earlier, I think it's still relevant today. I think there's definitely, obviously there is still violence in America.
A bit of a comment on guns towards the end, isn't there?
Yeah, in fact, that final scene is very amusing, and it's kind of how the family, I suppose, react to all this, and what they in turn kind of do to fight back themselves. And there's an interesting line that the father, again another monologue that the father gives at the end of the film. So I think it's quite an unknown film, this, but I recommend you go and check it out. And you watched it. For your first time? I've only actually seen it once before, or twice now, but I saw it a few years ago. Just kind of came across it. I'd never heard of it before. I was going through a Donald Sutherland season, so I was going back and watching a lot of films of his, because I think he's a really great actor. And so I was, going through his, and I came across this film. I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Because, of course, Elliot Gould and Donald Sutherland were in M.A.S.H together. So it was same scene, all these guys. So that's how I found it. But did you enjoyed it?
To a point.
Okay.
It was
weird.
Some of the characters. It was a bit weird. Some of the characters are just so over the top. Particularly when he first, like I said, it feels like it is a play, and like when he first meets her parents, that scene seems to go on and on and on, just with just random monologues happening, and I started to tire a bit of his apathy, to be honest. It got a bit tedious after a while. And you're right about Donald Sutherland. He was great. They go and see another minister, don't they? Or no, it was a judge.
No,
actually,
the judge.
Wasn't it? Yeah, judge. Sorry.
Before, yeah.
Again,
that's right,
that goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it's a great monologue. He, delivers it, expertly. But again, it just felt, all right. I get the message now. Just shut up.
Yes. Okay. Well, yes. No, you're right, and I see your point. I mean, yes, I suppose this. So we are in the early 70s, and then we are in kind of experimental cinema, and trying out new things. And I don't have a problem with that, because I'm a big fan of 70s films, specifically comedy from that period. I just like the crazy, and it's absurd. So it's not trying to be too serious.
No. I got that, and I got the message it was trying to put across. It was all fine. Just I didn't really gel with the characters.
That's
totally
fine. That's fine. That's great. No, that's what we do. Here we recommend stuff to each other and to you too. So that's all cool. But so like I said, it is obscure, but next Monday, the 30th of April. So of course, if you're watching this after this, it's
already out.
It'll be out. Indicator in the UK, Indicator, who are Powerhouse Films, are releasing it on Blu-ray, and it looks a really nice Blu-ray too. There's some features on there. I think there's some new interviews with Alan Arkin, and possibly the writer, and a couple of other things as well. It's quite a lot of dense extras package on exactly.
I think there's a booklet in there as well,
and then there's a booklet in there as well.
The film,
yeah, exactly. So if you don't know it, I recommend you check it out. Go and pick it up.
It's probably hard to get hold of in any other version, I would have thought.
Yeah. I think I had a copy that a friend sent me, because at that point I was unable to find it anywhere, and streaming wasn't quite what it is today. So yes, especially if you're in the UK, I think actually there are versions of it in America. I think it's on Blu-ray in America, but certainly not here. So if you're in the UK and you're interested, and certainly if you like, if you like M.A.S.H. or any of the other films I've mentioned, then give this one a watch, because it's worth it. It's worth the ride, even if you just watch it for Donald Sutherland's performance alone. Because that's kind of why I watched it in the first place.
I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but there is stuff to enjoy in it, I think. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's not perfect, and I think there are better comedies from that period. It's nearly 50 years ago now, so the comedy is a different type of comedy than you see nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I would say I would recommend giving it a shot because it has got some really great stuff in there.
So that was Little Murders. If you like it, leave us a comment, give us a like, let us know what you thought of it, and check out some of our other videos.
Yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook.
Yep, check us out on there.
Is that it?
I think
Yeah, we're not on Instagram.
Not yet, no. Thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you again soon for another one.